Ancient Romans wore their secrets in plain sight, carved into gold and gemstones. This is not a story about treasure, but about a hidden language. By the end of this journey, you will be able to look at a piece of ancient jewelry and read its silent messages of love, power, and fear. What did a frog have to do with a happy family, and why would a child wear a charm that would make us blush today? What personal symbol would you have kept closest to your heart? That gold ring on a senator's finger was far more than decoration. It was a public declaration of his place in the world, a legal document worn on the hand. Roman society had strict sumptuary laws, which were rules about who could wear what. Only citizens of a certain rank were permitted the gold ring, a right that was fiercely protected. A merchant might be fabulously wealthy, but if he dared to wear that ring, he risked public shame and legal penalty. Jewelry was your social security number, your passport, and your family crest, all fused into one wearable identity. But this external display of status was matched by an even deeper, more personal function. For the Romans, the world was alive with unseen forces, both benevolent and malicious. A common fear was the evil eye, a curse cast by a simple, envious glance. To counter this, jewelry became a form of portable magic. A child wore a bulla, a locket containing protective charms from the moment of birth. A soldier might carry an amulet carved with a phallus, a universal symbol of strength and good fortune that was considered perfectly normal, even for a child's bracelet. Even the marriage ceremony was sealed with a simple iron ring, a bond believed to be guarded by the gods. The materials themselves were chosen for their perceived power. Gold was the metal of the gods, imperishable and radiant. Gemstones were not merely pretty. Carnelian, a deep blood red, was thought to energize the wearer and stop bleeding. Amethyst, the color of wine, was believed to prevent drunkenness, and the intricate carving on a stone seal or the delicate filigree on a necklace was a point of pride. This was not just skill, it was a symbol of Roman order triumphing over raw nature, transforming a lump of gold or a rough gem into a tiny masterpiece of civilization. So when you look at a piece of Roman jewelry, you are not just looking at an artifact, you are looking at a layered object that combined legal status, spiritual belief, and technological prowess, all worn on the body for everyone to see and for the gods to notice. Among these potent symbols, the frog seems an unlikely candidate for a Roman jewel box, yet this small amphibian held immense significance, especially for Roman women. Far from being a simple decoration, a frog amulet, it was a concentrated wish for fertility and new life, a direct appeal to the goddess Venus for the blessing of children. A woman hoping to conceive or safely deliver a baby would wear this charm close to her skin, transforming a personal hope into a physical object she could carry with her. The craftsmanship of these amulets reveals their purpose. They were not stylized cartoons, but carved with surprising anatomical accuracy, capturing the distinct shape of the frog's body and legs. This realism was crucial. It was believed that a true likeness held more magical power. To further strengthen its connection to life and growth, these carvings were often made from green stones like jade or emerald, their color evoking lush marshes and the vibrant renewal of spring. But the story of the frog does not end with solemn ritual. This creature also hopped into the world of Roman fables and popular wisdom, where it represented clever transformation and sudden, unexpected good fortune. Imagine a storyteller in a bustling market square, telling a tale of a frog who becomes a prince, or a simple amphibian that outsmarts a larger animal. This layer of whimsy meant that wearing a frog could also be a light-hearted nod to life's surprising turns, a charm for luck as much as for fertility. So a single green stone frog resting against a Roman woman's skin was both a profound prayer and a personal secret, a blend of deep magic and everyday hope. But perhaps no symbol better illustrates this collision of Roman belief and modern sensibility than the phallus. It is a symbol that we are trained to view through a purely private lens, but for the Romans, it was a public declaration of power and protection. These amulets were everywhere. You would find them carved from bone, cast in bronze, or fashioned from precious gold, dangling from the necks of infants, swinging from the belts of soldiers, and even nailed above the doorways of shops and homes. This was not an act of vulgarity, but one of profound spiritual defense. The phallus represented the raw, unstoppable force of life itself, an energy considered so potent it could shatter malicious spells and ward off the dreaded evil eye. A simple envious glance from a stranger was believed capable of souring milk, blighting crops, or making a healthy child fall ill. The Phallus amulet was the antidote, a concentrated burst of life force to repel that invisible negativity. The forms these amulets took were as varied as their uses. Some were simple and direct, a straightforward shape worn as a pendant. Others were elaborate composite creatures designed to multiply their protective power. You might see a phallus with the wings of a bird, symbolizing swift and far-reaching protection. Another might be fused with a powerful, clenched fist, a symbol of defiance and strength. The most powerful of these hybrid forms was Phallus, a minor deity who was in essence the divine personification of the phallic charm. He was literally a flying phallus, a god you could wear around your neck or hang from your child's crib. This was not a hidden, shameful object, but a celebrated and openly displayed guardian. Think of a Roman mother tenderly tying a small, carved phallus charm onto her baby's bracelet. In her eyes, she was not adorning her child with something inappropriate. She was wrapping them in the strongest spiritual armor she could find. This open display forces us to confront a Roman world where the practical need to avert evil completely overrode what we would consider modesty. Theirs was a world filled with invisible threats, and the phallus was a logical, powerful, and widely accepted tool for public safety. It was as ordinary and unremarkable as hanging a horseshoe for luck is today. The symbol's primary meaning was its life-giving and protective energy, a force so essential it was woven into the very fabric of daily life, from the soldier going into battle to the merchant hoping for a profitable day. To see one of these amulets now is to look through a window into a mindset that is both familiar and utterly foreign, a culture that wore its fears and its solutions for everyone to see. Soaring above the humble frog and the protective phallus was a symbol of ultimate power, the eagle. This was not a personal charm for fertility or luck, but a public declaration of allegiance to the Roman state and its chief god, Jupiter. The eagle was Jupiter's sacred messenger, the master of the skies, and its image was literally carried into battle as the standard of every Roman legion. To lose this standard was a disgrace of the highest order, a sign that the gods themselves had withdrawn their favor. It is no surprise, then, that this potent icon was eagerly adopted into the world of jewelry. Wealthy citizens and officials wore rings and bracelets featuring eagle heads, their sharp beaks and fierce eyes captured in gold. More dramatic were the rings that showed the eagle in its most powerful pose, clutching Jupiter's thunderbolt in its talons. Wearing this was not just a fashion choice, it was a bold statement that the wearer stood under the direct protection of the king of the gods and shared in the invincible spirit of the Roman legions. The evolution of this symbol tells its own story. In the early days of the Republic, the eagle was a more generalized emblem of military might and divine approval. But as Rome transitioned into an empire ruled by a single man, the eagle's meaning sharpened and focused. It became inextricably linked to the emperor himself. The emperor was seen as Jupiter's representative on earth, and the eagle became the symbol of his divine right to rule. A famous carved gemstone from the reign of Emperor Tiberius perfectly captures this shift. It depicts a powerful eagle, a direct visual link between the emperor, the god, and the unstoppable power of the Roman state. To own or wear such an object was to connect yourself to the very pinnacle of Roman society. It was a way to visibly demonstrate your loyalty, your status, and your participation in the grand project of empire. While a woman might wear a frog for a private hope, and a child might wear a phallus for personal protection, the eagle was worn for Rome itself. It transformed the wearer into a tiny, walking standard-bearer for a civilization that believed its power was destined to rule the world. While the eagle soared for the state and the phallus guarded the body, a more sinuous symbol coiled around Roman wrists, whispering of secrets both of this world and the next. The serpent was a creature of profound duality, equally at home in a healer's shrine and a funerary monument. This complexity made it one of the most popular and personal motifs in a Roman woman's jewelry box. A snake-formed bracelet, crafted from coiled gold with eyes of tiny garnets, was far more than an ornament. It was a wearable paradox, a charm that harnessed the snake's dangerous power to provide renewal and protection. Its primary link was to healing, embodied by the god Asclepius, whose staff entwined by a single serpent is still our universal symbol of medicine. The Romans believed the snake's ability to shed its skin represented the body's power to shed sickness and heal itself. To wear a serpent was to invoke this divine physician, to keep the promise of health and rejuvenation literally wrapped around your arm, but the snake's guardianship extended beyond physical well-being. It was also sacred to the lares, the protective spirits of the household and the family ancestors. A snake ring, therefore, was not just a plea for personal health, but a vow to safeguard the entire home. The craftsmanship of these pieces masterfully enhanced their symbolic weight. The coils were not static. They were designed to look as if the serpent was in motion, slithering naturally around the finger or wrist, a captured moment of potent life. The gemstone eyes, often of deep red carnelian or green emerald, were believed to give the creature a watchful spirit, an ever-alert guardian against any lurking harm. This leads us to the serpent's most fascinating aspect, its shadow side. The Romans were acutely aware that the same creature that symbolized healing could deliver a fatal bite, and that it dwelled in the darkness of the underworld. This was not a flaw in the symbol, it was the source of its ultimate power. By wearing a serpent, you were not ignoring its danger. You were boldly confronting it, taming its ambivalent nature, and channeling its formidable energy into your own defense. You were making a pact with a powerful force, declaring that its life-giving renewal would overpower its capacity for destruction. To slip a golden snake onto your finger was to perform a small daily act of magical defiance, embracing the whole of life cycle to secure your place within it. For a society whose lifeblood flowed across the treacherous Mediterranean, the anchor was far more than a tool. It was a tangible promise of stability in a world of chaos, a heavy iron hope that you would one day return to solid ground. This powerful emblem of safe harbor naturally found its way into the personal adornments of those whose lives were tied to the sea. Sailors, merchants, and soldiers setting sail would wear rings or pendants bearing the anchor's distinct shape. This was not mere superstition. It was a silent, constant prayer worn on the body, a direct appeal to the gods for calm winds, a steady ship, and a successful venture. The anchor was a weight that held fast against misfortune. Its symbolism was so potent and universally understood that it even crossed into the hidden world of early Christianity within the Roman Empire. For those practicing a forbidden faith, openly displaying a cross was unthinkable, so they adopted the anchor as a secret symbol, its shape cleverly disguised a cross with the crossbar hidden as the anchor stock, while the curved arms and ring at the top could be seen to represent the hope of salvation, a spiritual safe harbor. The same piece of jewelry could mean one thing to a pagan sailor and something entirely different to a clandestine Christian, a perfect example of how symbols could hold layered, dual meanings for survival. Yet beyond these grand interpretations of faith and fortune, the anchor held a deeply human, emotional weight. Imagine a Roman wife pressing an anchor ring into her husband's hand as he prepared to depart for a months-long trading mission. That small piece of gold was not just a charm, it was her presence. It was a physical token of her love and her anxious hope, a daily reminder that a safe return was not just a matter of profit, but of a family remaining whole. Every time he felt the ring on his finger, he was touching her promise and her prayer. This transforms the object from a simple artifact into a story of separation, fear, and the desperate human need for reunion, an anchor for the heart as much as for the ship. The Gorgonan transforms a myth of petrifying terror into a shield of polished stone and gold. One of the most fearsome symbols in the Roman arsenal was the head of the Gorgon Medusa, a visage of snakes for hair and a gaze that turned living flesh to stone. Yet this terrifying face was not shunned. It was proudly displayed on the breastplates of legionaries, the shields of hoplites, and intricately carved into personal jewelry. The logic was brilliantly direct. If Medusa's stare held such lethal power, then her captured image could be wielded as a weapon, turning her own curse against malevolent spirits and human enemies alike. A pendant bearing her face was not a morbid decoration. It was a preemptive strike, a way to make the wearer so fearsome to behold that evil would recoil in its own terror. This is the heart of apotropaic magic, a practice that uses a frightening image to frighten away harm. The Gorgonan was the ultimate evil eye, reflecting malice back onto its source. But the story of this symbol is told in its changing face. In earlier Greek and Republican Roman art, Medusa is a true monster. Her features are grotesque, often bearded with a lolling tongue and bulging eyes, a nightmarish creature meant to inspire instant dread. Yet as we move into the imperial era, a fascinating shift occurs. The monstrous Gorgonane begins to soften, transforming into the face of a beautiful, albeit stern and sorrowful woman. The snakes remain coiling through her hair, but her human features are serene and symmetrical. Why this evolution? One theory suggests that as Rome's power solidified, its aesthetic ideals shifted toward ordered beauty, even in its protective magic. The terrifying chaos of the monster was refined into the authoritative power of a goddess. Another, more poignant interpretation is that this beautiful, tragic Medusa embodied a deeper protective concept. She was a figure who had herself been a victim of immense power, transformed into a weapon. Wearing her face was not just about projecting terror, but about carrying a story of survival and formidable resilience. So a Roman matron fastening a fibula with this beautiful Gorgonane at her shoulder was doing more than warding off bad luck. She was adorning herself with a paradox, a symbol that acknowledged the world's capacity for tragedy while harnessing that very energy into an unbreakable defense. It was a reminder that sometimes the most potent protection comes not from ignoring the darkness, but from staring it directly in the face. Above the earthly realm of serpents and anchors, the Romans saw their lives written in the stars. Their jewelry frequently reached for the heavens, incorporating solar discs, crescent moons, and star motifs that connected the wearer directly to the cosmic machinery of the gods. A simple gold pendant featuring a radiant sun was not just a beautiful shape, it was a declaration of allegiance to deities like Sol Invictus, the unconquered sun, whose favor was essential for the empire's continued power and for an individual's personal vitality. To where the sun was to carry a fragment of its divine, life-giving energy with you. Similarly, a crescent moon, often paired with a star, invoked the protection of lunar goddesses like Diana, a guardian for women and travelers navigating the night. This was jewelry as a personal cosmology, a way to align one's own destiny with the perpetual, orderly motion of the celestial spheres. This connection became profoundly personal with the advent of zodiac jewelry. A Roman of means could commission a ring or pendant engraved with their specific birth sign, a custom that feels remarkably modern. This was far more than a decorative initial or monogram. It was a deeply held belief that such an object could harness the unique influences of your constellation, shaping your character and guiding your fortune. A ring carved with the ram of Aries was thought to imbue the wearer with martial courage and initiative. One bearing the scales of Libra might be worn by a magistrate hoping for wisdom and balance in his judgments. This personalized talisman served as a constant reminder that your life was part of a grand, star-drawn tapestry. The creation of these tiny astrological charts was a feat of miniature artistry. Master engravers had to render the complex forms of scorpions, archers, and water-bearers onto surfaces often no larger than a fingernail. Using simple bow drills and diamond-tipped tools, they carved intricate star maps and mythical creatures into hard gemstones like carnelian or sapphire with astonishing precision. This was where belief, art, and science converged in the hands of a single craftsman. He needed to understand both the popular symbolism of the zodiac and the precise astronomical patterns to create a piece that was magically potent and aesthetically perfect. To own such a ring was to possess a masterwork of technology, a personal navigational device for the soul's journey, linking the wearer's individual fate to the timeless dance of the cosmos. Even the most practical Roman union began with a promise etched in metal. The first step was the betrothal, marked by the giving of the annulus pronubis. This was often a simple, unadorned band of iron. Its starkness was the point. Iron was strong, durable, and practical, a metal meant for lasting a lifetime. It symbolized the unbreakable nature of the legal contract being formed between two families, a bond as solid and functional as the material itself. But when the wedding day itself arrived, that iron band was often joined by something far more dazzling. For the ceremony, a gold ring was frequently exchanged. This was the public face of the union, a glittering announcement of the new social and economic partnership. The choice of gold was a clear signal of status, a visible proof that this was a match of substance, meant to be seen and recognized by the entire community. The true messages, however, were in the miniature scenes carved onto these gold bands. The most powerful of these was the dextrum iunctio, the image of two right hands clasped firmly together. This was not merely a handshake. In Roman law and public life, this gesture formally sealed agreements, treaties, and contracts. On a wedding ring, it was a tiny, wearable legal document, a constant reminder that marriage was first and foremost a partnership of mutual agreement and fiduciary trust. It spoke of alliance of two families and two fortunes joining together with a single purpose. Yet right beside this symbol of legal accord, you might find the whimsical figure of Cupid with his torch, or the graceful form of his mother, Venus. Their presence invoked the other, equally vital dimension of the union: love, desire, and the hope for healthy children to carry on the family line. A single ring could therefore balance the scales of law and the heart, declaring this marriage both a sound business arrangement and a blessed romantic union. Perhaps the most telling symbol of all was one that modern eyes might easily misinterpret: the key. A bride might receive a ring fashioned into a key, or with a key motif prominently engraved. This was not a quaint charm. In a very real sense, she was being given the keys to her new life. The key represented her authority, her duty, and her trust. It granted her control over the household storerooms, the grain, the wine, the family's vital supplies. This was a position of immense responsibility, making her the manager of the domus, the heart of the Roman family. She held the literal and figurative key to its daily survival and prosperity. So when you see a Roman betrothal ring, you are looking at a complex object that wove together ironclad promises, golden status, legal handshakes, divine blessings, and the tangible power of a woman stepping into her new role, her secrets of love and duty locked safely upon her finger. A Roman official raises his hand to seal a letter with wax, and there, pressed into his gold ring, is the stern, unmistakable face of the emperor. This was more than portraiture, it was a direct line to power. Intaglio and cameo rings featuring imperial likenesses transformed personal jewelry into a tool of political allegiance. For a senator, a soldier, or a wealthy merchant, wearing the emperor's face was a silent, powerful declaration of loyalty, a wearable form of flattery that could open doors and secure favor in a highly competitive society. The portraits themselves were masterpieces of miniature propaganda, each detail meticulously carved to broadcast a specific message. The laurel wreath encircling the brow was not merely decorative. It was the ultimate symbol of military victory and divine favor, a direct echo of the triumphant generals' parade through the streets of Rome. An emperor depicted in an armored bust was not just dressed for battle, he was embodying the very strength of the legions that secured the empire's borders. Even the intricate, comma-like locks of an emperor's hairstyle were far from arbitrary fashion. The distinct curls of an Augustus or a Nero were as recognizable as a modern logo, allowing art historians today to date these pieces with remarkable accuracy. They were a deliberate imperial brand. This portability was the genius of the system. In the sprawling provinces, far from the marble forums of the capital, a single ring could make the emperor's authority tangibly present. A governor in Britannia or a tax collector in Egypt could literally carry the face of their ruler on their hand, a constant reminder of where their loyalties must lie. In a world without mass media, these small, exquisite objects were the ultimate billboards for the regime, turning every handshake into a political statement and every wearer into an agent of the imperial cult. A single symbol could capture a single idea, but a Roman gemstone could hold an entire epic. The most sophisticated pieces of jewelry moved beyond standalone charms to depict complete mythological scenes, meticulously carved in reverse onto rings and pendants. A wealthy patron might choose a scene of Hercules using his bare hands to strangle the Nemean lion. This was not a random action scene. By wearing this image, the owner was publicly aligning himself with the hero's legendary strength, his unwavering endurance, and his ultimate triumph over impossible odds. It was a wearable declaration of personal fortitude. Another popular choice was the goddess Diana, captured in mid-hunt with her bow drawn. For a Roman woman, this image was a complex statement. It could signify a commitment to chastity, but it also invoked the goddess's fierce independence and mastery over the wild, a powerful model of female autonomy. Even darker myths were chosen for their profound resonance. A scene showing the god Pluto abducting Persephone to the underworld was not a celebration of the act, but a meditation on the cycle of life, death, and rebirth. It spoke to the wearer's understanding of the mysteries of the afterlife, offering a form of spiritual comfort or connection to the divine. Choosing which story to wear was a deeply personal act of self-definition. A general might commission a gem showing Achilles to reflect on the glories and tragedies of a military life. A woman who had endured great loss might select the image of a grieving figure to silently signal her own experience and resilience. These miniature masterpieces were more than pretty pictures. They were a sophisticated, non-verbal language. To understand the story carved on a friend's ring required a shared cultural education. Recognizing the specific moment from the myth, the characters, and their attributes was a mark of paideia, that revered combination of learning, refinement, and cultural knowledge. In this way, a piece of jewelry became a secret handshake among the elite. It silently announced, "I am educated, I am cultured, I understand the deeper meanings of our shared stories." The wearer carried not just a protective amulet or a status symbol, but a fragment of their own identity, a chosen narrative from the world of gods and heroes that they believed reflected the story of their own life. A Roman seeking ultimate protection did not choose between gods, but combined them. In the vast spiritual marketplace of the empire, we find some of the most puzzling artifacts of all, the so-called Gnostic gems. These small carved stones are a chaotic fusion of faiths, a place where the Egyptian god Serapis might sit beside the sacred Jewish name for god Iao, while a mythical serpent named Sachnabis coils nearby. This was not a sign of confusion, but of profound spiritual pragmatism. The logic was brilliantly simple. If one divine name offered protection, then combining several from different powerful traditions would create an unstoppable, supercharged talisman. A gemstone carved with these layered symbols was believed to concentrate the might of multiple pantheons into a single, wearable battery of magical energy. Let us examine one specific example. A dark green jasper amulet might show the bearded, majestic head of Serapis, the Greco-Egyptian lord of the underworld and healing. Carved right beside him are the Greek letters Iao, a representation of the Hebrew name for God Yahweh, and often we see the Sachnabis serpent, a lion-headed creature whose body is a series of radiant coils, a symbol linked to controlling stomach ailments and warding off poison. This was a universal spiritual remedy. The wearer was harnessing Serapis' authority over life and death, the supreme power of the Jewish god, and the specific healing properties of the serpent, all at once. The creation of these gems reveals a world where theological boundaries were porous. A single craftsman, perhaps in a busy Alexandria workshop, would have needed a working knowledge of Egyptian divine iconography, Jewish mystical names, and Greek magical formulas. He was not a priest defending a single orthodoxy, but a technician of the supernatural, catering to a clientele desperate for results. The primary purpose of these objects was intensely practical. They were spells carved in stone intended to cure fevers, protect against curses, ensure safe childbirth, or guarantee success in business. The power was in the combination, the syncretic layering that left no spiritual stone unturned. This approach tells us something crucial about the Roman mindset. For the average person, the question was not, which is the one true God? The real question was, what works? Efficacy trumped purity. Your personal jewelry became a private laboratory for spiritual experimentation, a canvas where you could paint your own portrait of divine power, assembling a pantheon unique to your own fears and hopes. In a world teeming with unseen dangers, why put your faith in a single guardian when you could wear an entire army of them on your finger? A coin is meant to be spent, but some were destined for a far more personal journey. Romans commonly pierced their currency, threading a chain through a small hole to transform a piece of state-minted metal into a wearable pendant. This simple act turned impersonal wealth into a powerful declaration of identity. The coin itself was a masterpiece of propaganda. On one side, the obverse stared the stern, authoritative profile of the emperor. This was not just a likeness, it was a constant reminder of the central authority that guaranteed the coin's value and the empire's stability. To wear this face was to carry a miniature sovereign, a direct link to the source of all power, right over your heart. The reverse side told the story the empire wanted to believe about itself. You might find the goddess Victory, wings outstretched, inscribing a shield or abundantia, her cornucopia overflowing with the riches of a prosperous realm. Another might show a specific deity like Mars, the god of war, or Minerva, the the patroness of wisdom and strategy, by selecting a particular coin to wear, an individual was making a choice. They were aligning themselves with a specific message, a particular form of divine favor they felt they needed. For a Roman soldier stationed on the windswept frontier of Britannia, this practice held a profound significance. His pay was not just silver, it was a potential talisman. He might carefully choose a coin bearing the emblem of his own legion, the boar or the eagle that was his military family. Or he might seek out one minted to celebrate a great victory won by his commanding general. Piercing this coin and hanging it around his neck did several things at once. It secured his wealth in the most literal sense, keeping his savings safe on his person. It became a badge of honor, a silent testament to the unit he served and the battles he had survived. And on a deeper, more superstitious level, it became a lucky charm. In the chaos of battle, he would feel the cold metal against his skin, a tangible piece of Rome's invincible glory, a personal prayer for protection cast in the same metal that paid for his service. This was more than jewelry, it was portable faith, a soldier's hope forged by the state itself. A Roman selecting a gemstone was choosing a specific kind of power. The vibrant red carnelian was far more than a pretty stone. Its deep, blood-like hue made it the obvious choice for a soldier's amulet, believed to literally staunch the flow of blood from a wound and imbue the wearer with raw courage on the battlefield. A carved carnelian seal showing the god Mars was not just a portrait, it was a fusion of form and substance, a deliberate concentration of the deity's martial energy into a single, wearable object. The stone itself was thought to be a vessel for that power. Then there was amethyst with its gentle violet color so reminiscent of diluted wine. Romans held a firm conviction that this gem could protect its owner from the perils of overindulgence. A man attending a lengthy banquet might wear an amethyst ring, trusting the stone to clear his head and guard him against drunkenness, turning a social occasion into a test of spiritual defense. For matters of the heart, the lush green emerald was unrivaled. This stone was sacred to Venus, the goddess of love and fertility. A gift of an emerald necklace or ring was not merely a romantic gesture. It was an invocation, a magical petition to the goddess to bless the relationship with passion, loyalty, and the hope of children. The stone's color connected it to spring and new growth, making it a perfect conduit for Venus' life-giving powers. On the other end of the emotional spectrum lay jet, a dense, black fossilized wood. Its somber color and lightweight nature made it the stone of mourning. A woman who had lost a family member might wear jet jewelry not only as a public sign of grief, but as an active ward against malevolent spirits believed to gather at funerals. The darkness of the stone was thought to absorb negative energies, creating a protective shield for the living during their most vulnerable moments. So the next time you see a piece of Roman jewelry, look beyond its shape and its carved image. Consider the material itself. That gold band set with a blood-red carnelian was a layered spell, a physical object where art, faith, and the perceived magic of the earth fused into a single declaration of identity and intent. A gold ring could hide a world of faith on its hidden inner band. For the earliest Christians in Rome, public worship was not an option. It was a dangerous act that could lead to social ostracism, imprisonment, or worse. In this climate of fear, jewelry transformed from a bold declaration of status into a whisper of shared belief. The most common of these secret symbols was the fish or ichthys. To any Roman official inspecting a piece of jewelry, it might seem like nothing more than a simple decoration, a common motif, but to a believer, that fish was a complete statement of faith. The Greek word for fish, ichthys, served as a powerful acronym. It stood for Isus Christos Theouios Soter, which translates to Jesus Christ, God's Son, Savior. A simple bronze pendant carved with a fish was therefore a portable creed, a silent declaration that the wearer believed in Christ as the divine Savior. You can picture two strangers meeting in a crowded market. One casually touches a fish pendant hanging around their neck. The other sees it and gives a slight, almost imperceptible nod. No words were exchanged, but a bond of trust was instantly formed. This was jewelry as a secret handshake, a lifeline in a hostile world. Then there was the Chi-Rho, a symbol of even greater power and eventual triumph. It combines the first two Greek letters of the word Christ, Chi and Rho, into a single monogram that looks like a stylized X superimposed over a P. For decades, Christians discreetly engraved this symbol inside their rings or on the back of pendants, keeping it safe from prying eyes. But its destiny was to become very public. The story goes that the night before the Battle of the Milvian Bridge, the Emperor Constantine had a vision of this symbol in the sky, accompanied by the words, "In this sign, conquer." He ordered the Chi-Rho painted on his soldiers' shields, and after his victory, he credited the Christian god. Suddenly, the secret symbol of the persecuted became the imperial standard of the most powerful man in the world. A Christian who had once hidden a Chi-Rho ring now saw it emblazoned on military banners. This was a revolution in spiritual symbolism, marking the faith's dramatic shift from the hidden catacombs to the gleaming halls of power. The very nature of these objects tells a story of caution and courage. A ring might have a beautiful Chinese letter seen on its outer face, a carving of a god or a goddess that presented a perfectly pagan appearance to the world. But when the wearer took it off, the inner band would reveal a tiny, carefully etched fish or Chi-Rho. This hidden compartment of faith meant your public identity could remain safe, while your private belief remained close, a constant and comforting touch against your skin. This was a complete reinvention of jewelry's purpose. It was no longer about displaying your place in the Roman world, but about affirming your membership in a different spiritual community, one that promised a kingdom not of this earth. A soldier's iron ring pressed into warm wax was his signature, his oath, and his identity. For a legionary, this piece of jewelry was a vital tool of his trade. The signet ring he wore was carved in reverse with a unique intaglio design, allowing him to press his personal seal onto official reports, supply requests, and letters home. Each time he sealed a document, he was authenticating it with an image that declared his allegiance and his very place in the vast Roman military machine. The symbols carved into these rings were not chosen at random. An eagle proclaimed his service to Jupiter and the emperor. The detailed image of a legionary standard, or signum, was a direct link to his specific unit, the military family he fought and died for. A soldier serving in Legio Roman II Augusta, for instance, might seal his letters with the unit's mascot, the mystical Capricorn, a hybrid creature with the head of a goat and the tail of a fish, symbolizing unshakable strength and resilience. And the goddess Victoria, forever in motion, wings spread as she inscribes a shield, was a constant prayer for the ultimate reward, victory itself. But some rings went even further in defining the man who wore them. A handful of surviving examples are engraved not just with symbols, but with words. They bear the soldier's name and sometimes even his century and cohort. Imagine a ring that reads, Lucius of the 10th cohort, or Gaius, soldier of the 4th legion. This small band of metal suddenly becomes the ancient equivalent of a military dog tag. In the chaos of battle, if a man fell, this ring could speak for him when he no longer could, telling his comrades who he was and where he belonged. This transforms the object from a simple administrative tool into a deeply personal artifact. It connects us to the individual behind the helmet, a man with a name and a unit who used his jewelry not for adornment, but to navigate the daily realities of army life, leaving his mark on history, one small impression in wax at a time. A child's first piece of jewelry was also his first suit of armor. The bulla was a small, rounded pouch, a locket presented to a freeborn Roman boy on the day he received his name. For a wealthy family, this amulet was crafted from gold, a gleaming orb hanging from a cord around the infant's neck. In a more modest household, the bulla was made of simple, sturdy leather, but its purpose was identical. Inside this sealed container were protective charms, a carefully selected collection of substances believed to repel evil spirits and ill fortune. From the very first breath of social life, a Roman child was wrapped in a layer of spiritual defense, a tangible expression of his parents' deepest fears and highest hopes. This was not a piece to be outgrown or casually discarded. A boy wore his bulla constantly, throughout his entire childhood. It shielded him during his most vulnerable years, a time when the malevolent forces of the world were thought to be most threatening. The bulla marked his status not just as a beloved son, but as a future citizen, his life deemed precious to the entire family and the state. The moment this amulet was removed was one of the most significant transitions in a young man's life. On the day he came of age, officially recognized as a Roman citizen and ready to assume the toga of manhood, he would carefully take off the bulla for the last time. But he did not simply throw it away. In a solemn family ceremony, he would dedicate it to the lares, the protective spirits of the household. This act completed the circle. The spiritual energy that had guarded him since infancy was now gratefully returned to the gods of the home, a final offering of thanks for a childhood safely navigated. The bulla, whether of gold or leather, was far more than a charm. It was a biography in miniature, a silent witness to the journey from a protected infant to a public citizen, its retirement marking the end of one life chapter and the beginning of the next. A simple clasp could broadcast your rank to everyone in a crowded forum. The fibula, that essential brooch holding a cloak closed or securing a tunic, was far more than a functional pin. Its design was a public language spoken in metal and enamel, a clear signal of who you were in the stratified world of Rome. For a high-ranking official in the later empire, the choice was often the crossbow fibula. This was not a subtle piece of jewelry. It was large, elaborate, and unmistakable, with a long arched bow and a horizontal bar that indeed resembled the weapon it was named after. When a governor or a general fastened his ceremonial cloak with this brooch, he was not just keeping warm. He was wearing his resume, a bold declaration of his authority for all to see. The military used fibulae with the precision of a modern uniform code. A simple soldier might have a plain, functional bow brooch, while a centurion's fibula would be more substantial, perhaps decorated with regimental insignia. The specific placement of the brooch on the cloak or shoulder could instantly communicate a man's unit or even his specific rank within the legion's complex hierarchy. But the language of the fibula was not limited to the powerful. Ordinary citizens used these brooches to express personal identity and belief. A disc-shaped fibula, a flat circle of bronze or silver, might be filled with vibrant enamel, creating a miniature portrait of a protective god like Jupiter or a beloved goddess like Juno. Another might display an intricate geometric pattern, a symbol of order and Roman craftsmanship. Animal shapes were immensely popular. A fibula crafted in the form of a leaping horse was not just a pretty shape. It was an invocation of speed, strength, and status, as horses were expensive and vital to the military and travel. A bird, perhaps an eagle for Jupiter or a dove for Venus, carried the essence of the deity it represented. So the next time you see a Roman fibula in a museum case, look past its simple function. See it as a wearable word. That clasp held a person's social standing, their profession, and their private hopes together, all with a single decisive click. The Roman spiritual landscape was never a closed border. Across the Mediterranean, from the banks of the Nile, sailed a goddess whose exotic symbols began appearing on rings and necklaces throughout the empire. The cult of the Egyptian deity Isis offered something that the traditional Roman pantheon often lacked: a deeply personal, emotional connection, promising salvation and a direct line to the divine. Her followers did not just worship in temples, they wore their devotion, adorning themselves with a unique set of symbols that marked them as part of a spiritual community. The most recognizable of these was the sistrum, a sacred rattle. Jewelry depicting this instrument was not merely decorative. When shaken in her rituals, the sistrum's distinct metallic jingle was believed to purify the air and drive away chaotic spirits. To wear a sistrum pendant was to carry that cleansing, protective sound with you, a constant ward against unseen turmoil. Then there was the situla, a small bucket used to carry sacred Nile water. In the hands of Isis's priests, this water was used for libations and blessings. On a ring or a brooch, the situla symbolized the life-giving and purifying power of the Nile's flood, the very source of Egypt's fertility. But perhaps the most potent symbol was the tayet, often called the knot of Isis. This intricate loop, resembling an ankh with its arms folded, was a direct emblem of the goddess's magical power and her protection. Crafted from red jasper or carnelian, its blood-like color linked it to the life force and to the menstrual blood of Isis herself, making it a powerful amulet for women seeking her blessing for childbirth and welfare. This was jewelry with a specific, urgent purpose. Isis was revered as the protector of sailors, the Stella Maris or Star of the Sea. A merchant or a sailor embarking on a dangerous voyage might wear a ring engraved with her knot, a tangible plea for safe passage across the treacherous waves. The prevalence of these Egyptian symbols in Roman jewelry is a story of cultural absorption, not conquest. It reveals a society hungry for new spiritual answers, willing to adopt and adapt the gods of the people they had conquered. A Roman woman wearing the knot of Isis was participating in a vast, silent exchange, connecting her personal hopes for safety and family to a goddess who had traveled 1,000 miles to find a home in the heart of the empire. But the same goal that shielded a child could also be forged into a weapon. For every amulet designed to protect, there was a ring or a pendant created to bind, to curse, and to destroy. This is the shadow world of aggressive magic, where the symbols of power were twisted to serve envy, revenge, and forbidden desire. Romans who felt wronged did not only seek justice in the courts. They often turned to private practitioners who would inscribe lead tablets, known as defictions, with terrible curses aimed at their enemies. These tablets were then folded, pierced with a nail, and buried in graves or thrown into deep wells, a direct appeal to the spirits of the dead to carry out the malevolent wish. Yet this dark art was not confined to disposable lead. The same curses were sometimes engraved onto jewelry, transforming a personal adornment into a permanent, wearable spell. Imagine a ring, its inner band secretly inscribed with the name of a demon or a powerful, incomprehensible magical word. One of the most famous of these was the palindrome abracadabra, a word whose symmetrical power was believed to trap and amplify magical energy. Wearing such a ring was like carrying a loaded weapon against the unseen world. The most chilling applications of this magic targeted the most human of emotions. A lovesick individual might commission a ring intended to bind a lover to them against their will. Its inscription meant to crush their free will with supernatural force. A businessman facing a thriving rival might wear an amulet carved with a twisted knot, a symbol designed to metaphorically tie up his competitors' affairs and strangle their success. This dark undercurrent reveals a crucial truth about the Roman view of symbolic power. The energy within a gemstone or a piece of metal was seen as fundamentally neutral, a raw force that could be channeled for good or for ill. A serpent could heal or poison, an image could protect or attack. It all depended on the intention of the person who wielded it. Your jewelry was not just a passive receiver of divine favor. In the wrong hands, it became an active transmitter of malice, a direct channel to supernatural forces that could be manipulated for the most personal and selfish of gains. A Roman widow might slip a ring of deep, glossy black onto her finger, a color so absolute it seemed to absorb the light around it. This was no ordinary stone. It was jet, a fossilized wood whose lightweight nature and somber hue made it the definitive material for mourning. In a culture where proper remembrance was a sacred duty, this jewelry was not merely a signal of grief. It was a functional tool for spiritual protection. The Romans believed the transition from life to death was a perilous time, when the spirits of the departed could linger or malevolent forces might be drawn to the vulnerability of the living. The deep black of jet was thought to act as a shield, absorbing these negative energies and creating a barrier between the wearer and the unseen world. A jet bracelet was therefore a form of armor for the soul during its most fragile period. The carvings on these pieces spoke a silent, universal language of loss. You would often find the inverted torch, its flame extinguished, a stark symbol of a life snuffed out. More direct still was the Greek word for farewell, chire, engraved into the band. This was not a casual goodbye, but a final, formal release, a word of permanent parting etched into a wearable object. Yet the most intimate and powerful symbol was not carved at all, but sealed within. Lockets and rings were specially designed with a small cavity, and inside would be placed a single lock of hair from the deceased. This transformed the jewelry from a symbolic object into a relic. Hair, unlike a portrait, was a physical part of the person, a tangible piece of their body that had once been alive. To wear it against your skin was to maintain a physical connection that death had severed. It was a secret sensory memorial. A husband could feel the cool metal of the locket that held his wife's hair, a constant, private touchstone for his memory. This practice reveals a human impulse that transcends time, the desperate need to hold on to something real when a loved one becomes a memory. That jet ring with its hidden lock of hair was a secret chamber for the heart, a place where public ritual met the most private, enduring love. Your word was your bond, and that bond was pressed in wax by a ring. For a Roman merchant, his signet ring was the engine of his enterprise, a portable notary public worn on his finger. In the bustling ports of Ostia and the crowded forums of Rome, a deal was not truly sealed with a handshake, but with the distinct impression of a personal seal. This small act transformed a simple band of gold or iron into a powerful tool of commerce and a public declaration of professional identity. A ship owner did not choose a random design. He commissioned a ring carved with the clear image of a merchant vessel, its sail billowing. A man dealing in the vital grain supply, the annona, would use a seal showing a modius, the standard Roman grain measure. A blacksmith's ring might bear a hammer and anvil. These were not vague symbols. They were specific corporate logos etched in miniature, instantly telling any business partner exactly who they were dealing with and what they did. This immediate recognition built a foundation of trust in a vast, impersonal empire. Beyond the tools of a specific trade, certain universal symbols spoke the common language of commerce. The most powerful of these was Mercury, the swift-footed god of trade, profit, and commerce. His image on a seal was a direct appeal for his favor, a declaration that the wearer operated under the god's shrewd and prosperous gaze. More common still was his staff, the caduceus, with its two serpents entwined around a winged rod. To see this symbol pressed into the wax sealing a shipment of olive oil or a contract for Egyptian linen was to see a promise of good faith and successful transaction. This was a guarantee of personal integrity. To break a contract sealed with your ring was not just a legal breach, it was a personal disgrace, a shattering of the trust that the symbol represented. The ring itself was a piece of your reputation, a tangible piece of your honor that you left behind on every document and every traded good. Its loss would be a commercial catastrophe, forcing a merchant to publicly announce its disappearance to avoid fraudulent use. So this piece of jewelry was far more than decoration. It was the key that unlocked warehouses, the signature that secured loans, and the silent partner in every deal, whispering of Mercury's blessing and the unwavering Roman value of a promise kept. From the protective phallus to the secret Christian fish, we have journeyed through a hidden world of meaning, where Roman jewelry was a silent but powerful language. Each piece was a personal declaration, a wearable answer to the fundamental questions of life. What do I fear? Who do I love? Which God do I trust? And how can I ensure my family's safety and my own prosperity? These were not idle concerns. They were the very fabric of daily existence, woven into gold and carved into gemstones. Every symbol we have explored, from the hopeful frog to the commanding eagle, reveals a culture deeply engaged with the invisible forces that shaped their world. They lived in a constant dialogue with the divine, the magical, and the political, using their most personal possessions as the medium for that conversation. So the next time you stand before a museum case, gazing at a delicate gold ring or a carved carnelian pendant, do not see it merely as a beautiful artifact. Look past the gleam of the metal and see the person who wore it. That serpent bracelet once coiled around the wrist of a woman praying for health. That iron signet ring sealed the letters of a soldier far from home, and that simple fish pendant was a secret creed that could have cost its owner everything. You are not just looking at history, you are reading a message. It makes you wonder, in our own modern world of mass-produced accessories, what would our jewelry say about us? What one symbol would you choose to carry with you every day to declare your deepest hopes or shield you from your greatest fears? Let us know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this journey into the silent language of the ancients, subscribe for more explorations into the mysteries of the past.